Alex, and this is Alex in the City. We're sitting here with the lovely Claudia Bloom. Hello.
Hi, Alex. Nice to see you in the city, at the beach, in the city.
Yes, this time we have a beach edition. And we already heard her talk, but this time she has more stories, so we're going to find out what's going on.
Okay.
So tell me, how did you start your, let's say, career with show business, with like the whole cinema, TV, newspapers, magazines? How did you do it?
That's a good way to sort of segue into like the big picture, because we were chatting before and I said I've had so many journeys and so many steps, and sometimes I feel like I've been all over the place, and can you decide what you want to be when you grow up kind of feeling like I'm ready, come on.
But then you can do it all. That's
right.
the best part.
And it's all related. You know, I'm not a nurse and a doctor and a lawyer and a magazine editor and an actress. So I started with acting, studying as a young child and as a teenager. Acting, dance, singing. Went to college to study theater, and then came out and hit the ground running with pictures and resumes in New York as an actress, and studied and auditioned, a lot of extra work on soaps and under 5 on soaps and background work on commercials. And I was a singer at the same time. It's sort of hard to believe that I actually had a nightclub act for about 2 or 3 years in New York at some clubs that no longer exist, so I don't want to date myself, but I loved voice and I loved singing, but I felt like that was not going to be my real journey. I was not going to be a singing music star. And decided to move to LA because at that time things were different, and mostly in New York. For actors, there was theater and there was soaps and commercials, and I was no longer interested in pursuing
now
theater.
it's so much different.
And now we have TV and film,
Yeah.
as you know. So a lot more shooting goes on in New York. So I headed out to LA while I was still young enough to be an LA actress, and I had about 3 or 4 really good years. You know, it took time to get my feet wet. It took time to find agents and managers. I had some kooky managers, but to learn the business.
Okay, stories. Cookie managers. Tell me some stories.
Yeah, I was thinking about that actually. It's a good segue. I had 3 different managers. One I found out was dealing drugs on the side to a major singer. I won't name who it was, but pretty major, and she was dealing. So I moved on from that. So that's just not comfortable for me. The second one I found out had such a high level of like depression, anxiety, bipolar. So he just closed the office one day and didn't tell any of us because he was really depressed, and none of us knew. I mean, he had all my pictures and resumes, which I'd given him. And the third one I was thinking about, she would have you stop at her apartment, because her office was out of her apartment. She was an older woman, but she was so Hollywood that if she wasn't ready for you, like camera ready, she would talk to you through the slit of her door, like apartment door, even though she knew you were coming. But if the final makeup wasn't done, and I think the wig wasn't put on properly,
my God.
so she talked through a slit of the door. And I think maybe once I actually met her, really. She was so Hollywood, and by that manager, I said, I'm done. I can't handle this craziness.
2 questions. Did you find anyone normal?
I found a really good agent, and they were called Feature Players Agency. I don't know if they still exist, but they were known, very well known. They were the only one of its kind to book actors in featured parts. You weren't ready for starring parts. You weren't ready for your own series, your own feature film, but it was pretty unusual. They sent me out on all featured parts, so you always had lines. So I was on Beverly Hills 90210 and Highway to Heaven and Get a Life and LA Law. I mean, there just was one thing after another, and almost Amen. I was thinking about Amen the other day, and I was thinking how I did that episode. I was a cocktail waitress, and the star of that episode was Halle Berry. It was like her first gig.
Wow.
And there I was with this beautiful young African-American actress I'd never seen, never heard of. We were back off the wings waiting for our cues. And I played the cocktail waitress in a bar where she had a connection with the lead. And that was Halle Berry's kind of start. So I sort of had a lot of these featured parts, and it really was nice for me for 3 or 4 years to really go in. And commercials, I had a commercial agent, and I did one. I was thinking about this story. I did one big Toyota commercial, was my big national, and it was a commercial about a couple who goes up to the mountains. And this is sort of a real Hollywood story too. A couple who goes up to the mountains. And we have a Toyota 4Runner, and we stop to take something out of the road. There's a log in the road, so the commercial, we stop. And when we stop, a raccoon gets into the open sunroof and locks us out. I mean, I think today, maybe you could get in that car a little more easily, but we couldn't get in. It was this whole cute thing. So we spent 2 days with this raccoon, and going up to the shoot was this torturous, mountainous drive up to the mountains. And I thought I was going to get car sickness, which I don't usually get. But we get right out of the car. They put us into hair and makeup. I'm still feeling really queasy.
Oh, no.
There was a delay because the raccoon got car sick. on the ride up. So he had a backup.
So you didn't feel guilty anymore?
No, I didn't feel guilty, but then the raccoon had a backup. They had like a second raccoon. I go, what about me? And now I'm right on set. I'm feeling I'm going to vomit, but we have raccoon number 2 because raccoon number 1 wasn't feeling well. Just funny stories like that as an actor, and that was a great experience.
Did you vomit at the end?
No,
Okay,
I was good. I was fine.
How is it like to work with a raccoon? It's like so surreal, no?
Yeah, and you have a trainer. I mean, that raccoon had a personal assistant. I didn't have that, right? So I had really good, like 4 years of consistent work. At the same time, though, as an actor you're not working all the time, and these aren't starring parts. I was catering. I was a personal assistant to a entrepreneur, painter, gallery guy, and catering stories. So I was in and out of celebrities' homes and stars' homes, and sort of watching the business from that perspective. So now all of a sudden you're in a tux and you're serving, cocktails at Johnny Carson's house, and at the end of the party he's handing everyone $100 bills. Really a gentleman and lovely. And then you're watching a star of a major TV show just like drinking the punch all night long in the kitchen and getting completely wasted. And yet you want to be the star of that TV show. And she has it, and there she is slinging them back. And so you get a different perspective. And then I remember actually doing a holiday party at Jay Leno's house, and almost every good stand-up comic was at that party. I do remember Seinfeld and a couple of others were there. I can't think right now. Paul Reiser they were so lovely and so gracious. At the end of the party, they also asked if they could help us clean up. Aww. So I remember like folding linens with Seinfeld and Jay Leno. It's like then they were the real people who were good, and so I did see a perspective of all of that. So wearing a lot of hats as an actor, which is fun and crazy and exciting, but also you get to a point where kind of enough was enough. Mm-hmm. I did. Not everyone does. So that was sort of kind of where I stopped after about 6-7 years in LA as an actor.
Mm-hmm. So is there any other reason why you quit acting?
Other than sort of feeling like the parts weren't getting bigger, the agents and managers weren't getting less crazy, the money wasn't getting, the paychecks weren't getting bigger.
Come on, with all the residuals.
I was going to say, except to this day, I still get residual checks. I mean, they're rarely more than about $4 to $12. I've gotten $2 or $3, but Beverly Hills 90210 and Highway to Heaven, man, they run all over the world like crazy, so I still get my checks.
Wow.
I remember, I sort of reflected back when I was acting in New York and I was doing soaps and commercials. I was also going out on a lot of extra work calls because you just have to learn, you have to be on sets. You don't want to be one of hundreds, and cattle calls weren't very exciting, but it's a good way to sort of get the sense of the business. And I do remember thinking over and over, I was in my 20s, kind of meeting these older women in their 40s, and there was a bitterness and there was a kind of an angriness. They were still online at cattle calls, they were still doing extra work, and I just somehow subconsciously, I think I filed that and thought, I don't want to be that woman. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be in my 40s still unhappy, still feeling this isn't enough. They could have moved on, they could have done a lot of other things in their life.
Sure.
I hope someday, and I did.
They kept believing, and maybe it was too late for.
But it's just okay to still stay, but not to be angry and bitter. They were sarcastic and they were bitter. And I remember that chat on the lines with those women, and it was so unattractive, emotionally, physically, to me.
Yeah.
That's just not who I am. I try to be more a glass is half full person. There's a lot of half empty glass women on that line. I'm sure men too, but I do remember the women more. Mm-hmm. So it moved on from that to casting. And
so you were casting people?
I was casting. I worked first as an assistant casting director on many major films, some in LA, some in New York, particularly with one casting director who was a friend, and I asked if I could learn what she did, so I helped her out. Then I moved back to New York for personal reasons at that time, and basically decided to just sort of let people know I was here and I was available to cast. So I got booked as a casting assistant mostly initially.
Okay, how does this work look like? I'm curious.
So if
you look through resumes, photos, what do you do?
Right. So if I'm assisting a casting director, she or he already has the breakdown of all the parts from the script and the director. We need these 50 parts, these ages, these types. And then the casting director has some time to start to call those pictures in. In those days they literally came in by the mail and dropped off. Now a lot of it's done digitally, of course. But it's the same journey. It's the same process. They're reaching out to mostly, and what I also realized, they're reaching out to the top agents for feature films, big budget films. So they're going to the top agents first. And I realized, as an actor, I wasn't in with the top agent. That's why I wasn't getting those calls. And then they're going to sort of middle range agents for smaller parts and smaller agents for really small parts. And then there's background people that they can get to. They're calling all that in, and then they're going through, and I'd go through the pictures with them and, kind of yes, no, maybes on each part.
How fast does it go? Is it like no, yes, or do you think?
No, it's not. I wouldn't say it's that immediate. I don't want any actor to feel like they have 1 second looked at it.
Curious,
I mean, if
it's
it's
very
really wrong, it's really not what they're looking for, obviously that's a no. Because a lot of times you really do spend some time. And the casting director who I mentored with in LA taught me something. She said she looks at a resume first, and she looks at not necessarily what you've done, unless you're a major name. But we're talking about everyone else. There's only 10 of those major names. And she really goes to education and skills and training. She wants to see kind of where you've been and how you've trained. That was really important to her. And she was a New York casting director, ended up in LA, so she understood the importance. And then she would take a look at the picture and see if they were right. So I loved that idea. That's not just about your look. You still have to get in skill and talent and training. And then you'd start to make the appointments and book, and I was helping make those appointments and booking people and bringing them in for auditions. So, and then for a film, you're putting everyone on tape initially. Either I was the reader, often got to read with the actor, which is great as an actress to get to do that with some really major talent. And if not, she would have a reader there, or he or she, the casting director, would sometimes read as well. Then the tape would go to the director, and then the director would say yes, no, and then you'd bring in callbacks. And then at that point, my role was kind of over, because I was brought in to sort of do that segment. But then I really felt like here I'm working on these big features, big budgets, big names. I was learning, but I wanted to do more. Like I felt like I needed to be a little more creative. So I cast for a small theater company myself. They got my name. I did 3 shows for them by myself. I did some print casting. I did a lot of street casting. I would get called, I thought a funny story, I'd get called by casting directors to do street casting. So one was an Elizabeth Arden commercial, and it was about perfume, some love name in the perfume. I don't remember the exact name of the perfume. It was all about different couples in love, real couples, elderly couples, teenagers, interracial. They really were trying to push it. And at the last minute, they said, we want a gay couple. And this was, a number of years ago, and they really wanted that for TV. So we did I sat in coffee bars in Chelsea, tried to find gay guys.
Oh, Chelsea is a good spot.
Yeah, to come in for an audition. And then we weren't finding enough gay women couples. So I decided, the casting director said to me, how about you go to a gay club at night and try to meet some women? And I said, fine, I'll go do that. He said, wait, I'm going to go with you, because what if I don't go with you, I'm afraid something else may happen. I went, what's going to happen?
Exactly.
He said, well, you might just have too much fun. No, don't worry. So he came with me, and we did. I was sort of getting hit on, but they were great, and the women were excited.
I love women. I got one women to buy me a beer. It's perfect.
Yeah, lovely women. We brought in some really interesting women couples from that. So I loved the street casting, actually. I worked for a stock photo agency, and I did all their real people. So I've cast a ton of people, and I literally could be on the train or see somebody walking by here, and I would tell them what I'm doing, and they would submit themselves, and I enjoyed that because it's nice to work with real people sometimes who are so grateful and so sort of giving. So that casting was sort of what I was doing for quite a number of years in New York. I worked with this is like a negative story, but I worked with a major Broadway casting a director, and I answered an ad, and I sent her my resume, and she was pretty major at the time, and I was so uncomfortable with her. She just did not treat me with respect.
What do you
mean? It was really interesting. She treated her staff with very little respect, and the second actors would walk in the door, her whole tone would change, and she would sort of bow down to them, and was lovely and was incredible to these actors. But I thought, no, this is not a place for me to be. I see the two sides and see that part of the business a little bit. So I moved on, and that's when I was doing my own stuff, and that was great. And that was the casting period. And the next period of my career, still trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up, was a magazine editor. And I was just about to start a family, have a child, and was married at the time, and it was time to sort of have something steadier. The casting I loved it, but it was, in between and waiting and having to do other jobs. So I found this world of research editing, to be a research editor at all magazines, but I really found a niche at women's magazines, so Self and Glamour and Ladies Home Journal and even Rolling Stone for a brief period. And then I landed at a real major magazine for 14 years, published by Time Inc. They're still around. And I really found a nice niche for myself. I enjoyed it. I used my brain differently. I worked with these really smart women, all these masters in journalism women.
So
None of them had my background.
Office
Yeah,
work.
I worked in Rockefeller Center, in the Time Inc. building. They're now downtown. They've moved downtown. And I worked mostly on health and fitness stories, so it was research, fact-checking, making sure all the stories were right, and re-editing them if they weren't correct with the editors. And I love health and fitness. I'm very athletic. I surf. It's one of the reasons I live here. I play tennis. I bike. I work out. I do yoga. I swim. So they kind of realized my passion and gave me all of those stories. And I loved that. And health stories, really about heart or cancer and all that. And so I'd spend my days talking to experts on the phone and kind of re-interviewing them, like yoga teachers, fitness teachers, doctors. And I did some casting for them. They needed some help finding the real women at the magazine, so I offered to do that. And they needed women to go on TV shows and talk about the articles, so I got to go on the Today Show and morning shows and do some modeling.
You already knew Jay Leno.
Yeah, right. So I got to do some of those shows for the magazine, which was a really nice connection of all my skills. My skills are really strong in networking, and I think they appreciated that at the magazine, which was nice. So that was my magazine.
Before we go
piece.
farther, because I know where it goes now from the magazine, what would you say was the main difference in how you were and how the jobs were that you did? Like you did so many things in your life. You chose different paths every time, always in the same kind of the broad spectrum of show business. Media, show business.
Right.
But you did so much. What's the difference? How were you? Like, where did you feel yourself? What made you feel accomplished?
Are you sure you're not my therapist?
No, but I can be.
I can tell you about my
free.
parents too.
You're fun to talk to.
My childhood. No, I'm kidding. How I felt about myself, being an actor, there's a lot of issue of confidence, lack of confidence, rejection. You often hear about that, and they're not rejecting you. It's you're not right for the part, but they are rejecting you. You are.
It feels like they're rejecting you.
Right. It's not something. I drew this picture, this or I sewed this image, or I built this table. You're this thing you're selling, which is a terrible way to think of it, but it's true. So there is, it does take a toll, and I had to be really careful to hold on to, it's not about you, and some days I was good at it and some days I wasn't so good at it. Obviously, when you book a job, you feel really good about you. They liked how you look and you sound and your skills. It's a whole package, there's few actors, and we know them, who look great, they not sound so great, So I think that it would ebb and flow, sort of my sense of confidence and self. When I went on to casting, I really seemed appreciated. The woman I trained with was so grateful to have my help. She had a big film and she had just lost her casting assistant. Was so happy to have me there and really taught me the ropes. And even though I felt green and I wasn't really exactly sure, I felt she gave me the confidence that you can do this. And I was ready to give actors parts. Like, it felt nice to give back and not want that part anymore. And I wouldn't have been ready for that a few years prior. I didn't want to give anyone else the part that I could have been right for. And as a magazine editor, again, green to start, but actually my degree is in psychology from college. And when I did the health and fitness, I was reading studies after studies after studies. Where did you get this stat about how many women have cancer, or how many women don't work out a day in a week, and how much water we need to drink, and why we need fruit and vegetables? It took me back to my university days of reading studies. So I thought, am I ever going to use that skill? And there I was in my office, reading studies, understanding the stats, looking at charts, looking at statistics. So I felt that grew, and I felt really confident there. It took a while because everyone else, as I said, had like a journalism master's degree, and I didn't. So it took time, and I was mentored there by some of the editors there who took me under their wing and sort of helped me through it. I wasn't a writer. A lot of the editors were writers, and I knew that wasn't my strong skill. I tried a little bit of writing for them here and there, but it really wasn't where my skill was. So I sort of let that go, and they agreed to let that go. So I guess, then I moved into, I also met a coach, an audition coach. And I was like, can I do this? I don't know if I could do this. And it was a last minute, I filled in for somebody at an acting school. She said, can you fill in for me? I said, what am I going to do? She goes, here's what you need to do, and here's how you do it. And I loved it. So that sort of led to my audition coaching, and I love giving back to actors in that way. So in terms of how I feel about my confidence, it took a little time. Can I do this? But It didn't take a lot of time. I think the combination of having been an actor and a casting director, so being on either side of the camera, I saw things that didn't work and did work on both sides, you know, that I learned. And now it was time to sort of share that with actors. And I've gotten such great response. And I work with actors who are brand new, who've taken time and coming back, who are working a lot and going out for an audition. I do a lot of kids and teens, which I love because children are they're just like sponges. They're really receptive. They don't fight back.
How many do you have?
You know, so last week I did a brother and sister in Florida. I'm now working on Skype. This is brand new. So they're in Florida. The mom wants to work every week with me and the kids. Kids are adorable. I mean, amazing energy. I'm going to have to sort of bring it down and make it a little more real. We're working again this week. Tomorrow I'm working with a 10-year-old who's just in from Chicago with her dad, and she auditions in Chicago, so we're working tomorrow. But kids are just like, there's something so genuine and freeing in teenagers that I do adore. I mean, my funny kid story is I coached, she was about an 11-year-old, and her mother had set the whole thing up, all the sessions up, and she came to my home. We worked out of my house that day to do a studio or my home, and I told her about my background a little bit. She's 11, and I asked if she'd acted or been in any plays. We talked about how I was going to work, and then I said, okay, so let's get started, but before we start, do you have any questions for me? She said, I just have one question. I said, what's that? She goes, what's your name again? It's like, so an adult wouldn't say that, you know, but it's such a good question. Like, who am I working with? My mother set this whole thing up, so it's a good question. And that was the only question she had. So the kids have been fun. The adults have great too. I mean, you know, most of my adults are it's lovely, and they challenge me too. Some of them bring me a lot to work with. Some don't bring me as much to work with. So I'm sort of pushed to kind of think and change and challenge them. I have one actress, she actually comes down from Albany every once in a while to work with me. She's a mom, she's got a 5-year-old kid. She's never acted professionally. She just loves the idea of studying. So she comes in from Albany every once in a while, and she's emotive and adorable and funny and sweet, and we'll chat and catch up, and she's like my girlfriend and best friend. And the second I give her a script and we start to work, it shuts down.
Oh no!
And this happened time after time. I know it was there. I saw it, and that's why I always chat with actors for a while. I ask them what's up, and I want to get stories. And finally, after the second or third session, I stopped her and I said, okay, well, you've just done and now you're stopping. We're going to have to find a way to carry that over. So we're going to chat, and I'm going to move you right into the piece and pick up your phone as if we're chatting on the phone. I'm not even here. And it worked, and she started to sort of open up. And some of them challenged me more than others, which is good and makes my work interesting. So that's vibrant. I've been able always to sort of keep that up as much as I could when I was working full time. And I love that work. And now, because you're sitting here at my new home, my backyard is the ocean. I always call the ocean my backyard.
It's a nice backyard.
Thank you. A few people have stopped by, but
it's okay.
That's okay. Some of them told me they were coming. I was tired of living in the city. I was getting tired and needed a change, and my son was off to college, moving to college, and
You have only one son?
College. He was in college. And I felt like I was losing sense of community once he left. You know, it was all about the schools and the parents and all the activities and the events, and my friends didn't live in my neighborhood, and I just had no sense of community. I could go through a whole weekend and not talk to anyone. You know, I didn't bump into anyone, nothing. I wanted community. I've always dreamed to live at the beach. I mean, since I was like arrived, I wanted to live at the beach. A summer baby, you know, July, I just love summer. And I just thought that my rent was going up. Where can I go? And because I wasn't working full time anymore, I thought I don't have to be right in Manhattan. Where can I be that would just give me a different sense of quality of life? And I'd been coming out here for 4 years to surf. I picked up surfing late in life and surfing, and then I started to meet people who live here full. I said, you live out here full time? What do you mean? Yeah, a lot of us live here full time. It is still New York, it's Queens. Started to check rents were affordable, realizing I don't have to commute. I commute half the month to a women's magazine, another magazine I freelance for, which is wonderful.
Where do you live when you go to the city?
Oh, I stay here. I mean, I just commute. So it's 2 weeks a month that I commute in and out on the 8 train, or now our new ferry. We have a ferry that takes us to Wall Street, which is beautiful. And so that's good. And I need to go to the city. I need to run some errands and shop and see some friends and have a doctor's appointment. Like sometimes I do need a little bit more.
But 2 weeks out of a month, and you're just free.
And then 2 weeks I'm here. This is it. And this is my life. And I'm working out, and I'm doing yoga, and I'm on my bike, and I'm running errands, and I'm doing my home and taking care of when my son's home for the summer. And I edit from home as well. This magazine sends me stories to work on from home, which is great. And I coach during those 2 weeks. And I've also just launched a new company. So
oh my God, what's the company?
I need something else to do. I'm bored. I needed something else those 2 weeks really to feel fulfilled and feel a little bit more active than just working out, which I could do all the time. But and I wanted something else, and I wanted to give something to the community as well. I thought, what could I do in this community? What does it need? What could it use? What are my skills? You know, I'm not going to work in a bar in the community. And I thought about using some of the locations, the bars and the stores and the restaurants. You'll actually maybe see some later if you go out for lunch. Are beautiful to me and different and interesting. They're just not like the city places. If you poke into some of these places, I start to go in to eat and to drink and to shop.
Price range?
Really affordable, really, you know, not cheap. Some of them are.
Is it like New Manhattan or a little bit cheaper?
No, less. Everything's a little bit less.
Okay,
but it's a
good.
beach community feeling, and the owners were so friendly.
Yeah.
When they found out I just moved here, welcome to the Rockaways, welcome to the Rockaways. I can tell you how many people in every store and restaurant would tell me that. When did you get here? Where'd you move from? Nowhere in Manhattan did I sit at a bar and,
no, of course not.
You know, but it was a
very
newness.
anonymous.
Yeah, and all of a sudden I was developing this community. So I said to a number of these owners, these were all business owners at the time, I now represent homes, would any of you be interested in having a shoot here of TV, commercial, print, magazine? I know a lot of people. Everyone said yes, everyone said sign me up, this is a win-win situation. It's a really vibrant summer community, and everyone's comfortable and does well. It's tricky the other months. You know, we don't have all these people.
So what happens in the winter?
Many of them, some of them close part-time. They all stay open either weekends, the bars maybe just on the weekends. A couple of stores may close up Monday and Tuesday. I don't think any of them close completely. The pizza shop's open 7 days a week because we still have locals who live here. I think there's 120,000 people on the peninsula full-time. And they said, yes, that would be particularly awesome. They said, we can't promise we'd close for a shoot in summer because that's their business, and I understood that. So I launched a business called Rock Locations, and I'm representing, in addition to these businesses, like a home vintage shop and a beach decor shop, an amazing gym, and a restaurant bar on the bay that's beautiful. The sunsets are amazing. I'm also representing homeowners. They found out about me. The local paper did a story, and I got calls. Would you rep my house? Rep my house. Rep my house. I'm repping one in the development.
So you go there, you take photos, short videos.
Right. I do just photos so far. I have 2 photographers who work for me. 2 others probably will be working for me. The homeowners or business owners send me pictures what they have. Usually we need better. Some of them are pretty good. So some of them I can use, but I usually need better. So then I set up a shoot date, and I go in with a photographer. One of my photographers he can do it on his own. He knows exactly. We're both learning. Toilet seats go down in a bathroom. We shot a few bathrooms with the toilet seat up, the glade on the tank. It looked terrible. He goes, I got the toilet seat down, I got the glade off. We know everything has to be done. I mean, it has to be clean, has to be clear, it has to look pretty.
What do you want to focus on? You want to focus on films or magazines?
I kind of want to do everything. Like, there I go again. I want everything. They do shoots out here. This isn't brand new. I didn't bring a brand new idea. But everyone I talked to said, we don't know anyone else who's repping locations. So we have scouts that come out, and they knock cold on doors. They'll knock on these beach bungalows and just say, you know, can we use you for a shoot? Ed Burns just did a big movie on some of our beach bungalows last week.
I like it.
And the stores, you know, then you have to find out who the owner is, and you got to set all that up. So they think I'm the first one that's done the repping. I see shoots going on all the time, and I bike by and give them a business card. I stop and try to find somebody.
Nice.
I'm repping props, like vintage props. Somebody called me and said, I got an amazing pickup truck. Can you rep it? Yeah, and I got tandem bikes and vintage bikes, and another one has pedicabs. So I tell people I've gone from like casting glamorous, beautiful people to like these beat-up pickup trucks that are kind of adorable and
Look
really
for
hot.
old cars. Old cars always.
And he's a mechanic, so he keeps sending me the old cars. I said if I need them. I had a scout out here needing a convertible, possibly for a job. We didn't book it. I immediately called him, and he had the convertible ready if I needed it. So I've gone from these actors to these trucks to these bikes to these, you know, home vintage shops to a gym to a beautiful house on the bay with a swimming pool, and then funky beach bungalows. We've got surfers and artists who have these gorgeous little bungalows, cottages. So I'm just last week, do you have like a messy, dirty office? I get a call. I didn't answer your question. A messy, dirty office. Start calling around. No, I don't. I need a messy, dirty office. The mechanic calls. Come check my office out. I haven't cleaned it in a week. So I'm now repping the mechanic's office and garage. I went and we shot the garage. I actually did find a big office that might work for a 15-minute silent film. So we're on hold for that at a physical therapy studio. And what do I want? I want, you know, if it's a music video, I've got 2 houseboats in the marina that are adorable. One's kind of gritty and dirty, and a guy's a surfer's houseboat that's funky. And we came to shoot, and he had a bowl of flowers on the table, like for our shoot. And then a woman's houseboat that's very feminine and pretty and beautiful, kind of right out of a magazine, like a home decor magazine. I see a music video, like on one of those boats, you know, some band, you know. I see a fashion shoot. Could be in, you know, the bar on the bay, could be in the pizza shop, could be, you know, I just, the contrast, I love the contrast. So if it's a music video, if it's print, the surf shop, like what fun thing to do, maybe winter attire in a surf shop, like the contrast, the juxtapositions I think would be fun. This home vintage shop, like an independent film, it's so crazy and crowded and beautiful items, some interesting.
So you have a lot, and there is a website, I understand.
I have a website. It's a WordPress site. Rock Locations is the company. I'm on Facebook, Rock Locations. I'm on Instagram, Rock Locations, and I have my WordPress site. And I Instagram every day. I do a location a day, and on the weekends I do the neighborhood. So you'll see the beach and the skateboarders and the surfers.
I'll follow you, definitely.
Yeah.
Rock Locations.
Thank you.
Definitely.
So I'm hoping this is our big, you know, year. The calls are coming in, and I'm hoping here we go. I'm ready. Like, come on, let's go. Let's book these things. I'm getting a lot of calls.
It's absolutely beautiful here. So, there is a guy with ice cream following. Maybe we're gonna get an ice cream now.
I'll tell you, this great soft ice cream right up there. We might have to do that. I don't wrap them, but they're great.
We spoke to Claudia, Bloom, and Rock Locations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. It's been Alex in the City.